The future of Montezuma's Revenge at Knott's Berry Farm isn't looking good. It was supposed to be back from an extensive renovation already, but now there's rumors pointing to it being scrapped for good, which isn't the news we wanted to hear, and honestly just makes us really sad. Monte was our very first launch coaster and a go-to when visiting the park. The ride opened on May 21st, 1978 as the first flywheel launch coaster in the world. Considered state of art for its time, the coaster quickly propelled riders out of the station, going 0 to 55 miles per hour in a mere 4.5 seconds. But it all came to a halt on February 7th, 2022 when the ride closed for what Knott is calling an extensive renovation. Now, the rumor of Montezuma's Revenge closing for good has been going around for a very long time. Even in the early 2000s, we'd hear things about it being limited on time for various reasons. And in more recent times, it was thought that perhaps Wicked Twister from Cedar Point would take its place. But with that ride being cut up into bits back in 2021, that idea was squashed. Still, it came to a shock to us when on January 7th, 2022, Knott's posted the following on Facebook. Montezuma's Revenge will close on January 10th, 2022, as major renovations will be taking place to this historic coaster. This flywheel launch shuttle coaster was the first of its kind and will be upgraded with exciting changes while keeping the ride's unique charm that our guests have loved for generations. Stay tuned for more information later this year. The new Montezuma's Revenge is scheduled to open in 2023. Thankfully, the park extended that closing date and gave fans until February 7th to ride. We were happy to see Knott's acknowledge the historical significance of Montezuma's Revenge, which was also designated a roller coaster landmark by the American Coaster Enthusiast in 2019, officially recognizing the ride as the last coaster of its kind in the United States and the longest standing in its original location. Knott's even tweeted about it when it happened. And the verbiage used in the closure announcement really made it sound like the flywheel launch was going to stay, despite rumors of LSMs. To us, the unique charm was the flywheel launch and open trains with nothing over your shoulder, so we really thought the park was going to keep the historical flywheel launch system, giving it a complete refurbishment. After all, their Zamperla-built Pony Express roller coaster from 2008 also uses a flywheel launch. However, in July 2022, the loop was cut up and removed along with the flywheel and some sections of track. The pieces were temporarily stacked in a parking lot just outside the park. It was a pretty strange experience to see it in person. We had so many good memories of it throughout the years, and as weird as it might be, we had to say goodbye to the pieces of a ride we just loved so much. From here, there was no going back, and the ride was clearly not going to be the same anymore. Now, Knott's didn't keep us waiting long. On August 11th, they announced that Montezuma's Revenge would be reimagined to become Montezuma the Forbidden Fortress, which would anchor a renovated Fiesta Village. New updates will allow guests to be completely surprised by the direction the train will take at the start of each ride. With that, it was painfully clear that the flywheel launch system was gone for good. A new LSM launch system would give the ability for the ride to start with a forwards or a backwards launch. An animation was released a few days later that showed what the new trains will look like, and while beautifully themed, we were super disappointed to see that it has comfort collars. We visited Knott's again on August 17th, 2022, where work looked to be well underway. Construction walls now blocked off the entrance, the queue was starting to be ripped up, the iconic entrance sign still remained for the time being, but was removed the following week. New steel bracing was installed on the rear spike supports, and here we can see where the loop once stood. For reference, Jaguar used to go through the middle of the loop. Also, a section of track between the station and back spike was removed. A couple months after that, during a visit on October 24th, there was now Fiesta Village artwork on the construction walls. In the queue, there was some digging and concrete forms around the bases of the supports, and by December, they pretty much gutted everything inside the station building. However, in February of this year, it was starting to be obvious that something was wrong, very wrong. Hardly any progress was made in many months, and now a tarp was covering all of the launch track, which was a sign to us that work was being put on hold for the time being. Then, on May 9th, Knott's announced a May 26th opening date for Fiesta Village, which had delays of its own. However, added that due to construction delays, Montezuma, the Forbidden Fortress, will not open with Fiesta Village this summer. An opening date has not been scheduled at this time. We briefly got excited in June of this year when it looked like work was resuming on Monte. Work walls were erected around the Camp Snoopy sides of the ride, the tarp was removed from the launch track, and new orange lines appeared around the base of the launch track supports. Sadly, it was a false alarm because here we are in the middle of October and nothing has changed. And this is how the ride currently looks. The new steel bracing on the back spike is now covered in rust, as well as the track, which is also collecting dust and cobwebs. And no, this isn't theming for Scary Farm. And now to the various rumors. Over on the theme park news and rumors website Screamscape, they talked about something that we've been hearing about for some time, but not wanting to spread rumors, we were rather quiet about things. Anyway, Screamscape is reporting that Knott's ran into issues with a contractor providing the track and trains for the reimagined attraction. That the project was going to cost significantly more than was originally agreed upon. Another rumor is that the company hired made an error and accidentally removed the loop. Not really sure how that could happen, and said company decided to back out of the deal, and now Cedar Fair is suing them, which is why Knott's has been so quiet about things. And on Facebook, Historic Coaster Foundation seems to believe the park is cutting their losses and scrapping the ride altogether. It isn't known which company or companies that Knott's went with for the refurbishment, but it's probably safe to say it isn't Zamperla, who is currently working on the redo of Top Thrill Dragster at Cedar Point, which could have very well gone away after the accident a couple years ago. Perhaps Zamperla can step in and save Montezooma's Revenge too. Another option would be to partner up with Gerstlauer, who successfully completed a similar upgrade project on another Schwarzkopf shuttle loop, Psyche Underground at Walibi, Belgium. Knott's also has a working relationship with them. Gerstlauer built Hang Time in 2018. Now, if Montezuma's Revenge does go away, we aren't quite sure what would take its place. There really isn't a lot of room with how much is built over, under, and around the coaster. Anything built in that spot would have to be quite narrow and linear. Some have suggested a Zamperla Double Heart or Lightning Launch coaster, but we just aren't sure something like that would even fit, nor would it be worth the cost. It makes much more sense to us for Knott's to find a contractor who can bring Montezuma's Revenge back to life. We really hope the ride comes back in some form. After all, the park still has it listed on their website, saying to stay tuned for more information. They're also selling Montezuma's Revenge merchandise in Fiesta Village. And on a lemonade stand next to the back spike, they have these nice little Easter eggs. So the park is quite aware of how much the coaster is loved. Fingers crossed for a 2024 opening. Knott's Berry Farm just isn't the same without it. But what are your thoughts on the future of Montezuma's Revenge? Will we ever see it running again? Who would you like to see complete the work? And if the ride does go away for good, what could you see replacing it? Okay, that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.